Hey history buffs, in today's video we step inside the boots of a young German soldier stationed above the cliffs of Omaha Beach, June 6, 1944. You probably won't survive this day, not as yourself anyway, not in the way you know yourself now, because after this you'll measure time in fire bursts and the number of grenades in your pouch. Before you fall asleep, feel free to like and subscribe, but only if stories from deep inside World War II are your kind of thing. Let me know in the comments what city you're tuning in from and what time it is. It always amazes me how far these slow, dusty stories manage to march. Now, get comfortable. Let your mind slow down. We're stepping into another time. No headlines, just the quiet moments that shaped a generation. You're 20 years old and already a veteran. At least, that's what the Feldwebel calls you when the new kids freeze during drills. You've been here for months, high on the bluffs, with a 352nd Infantry Division, watching the channel and praying the Americans are as soft as their chocolate. Mostly, you just clean the MG-42 and curse the damp. The view is beautiful if you ignore the mines and bunkers, rolling grey waves, a sweep of sand, and then the cliffs. But this morning is different. Something's off. You wake before Reveille to a sound your body registers before your brain, like distant thunder wrapped in cotton. It's the ocean, but angrier. Then you smell it, diesel, cordite, and something metallic. You sit up fast, bumping your head on the low concrete ceiling of your bunker. Your comrade Franz is already at the slitted window, eyes wide. "Shall," he mutters. You join him. The channel is no longer empty. The sea is crawling. You see dots at first, then shapes, then ships. So many they blot out the horizon. Destroyers, cruisers, even those bizarre floating docks you heard rumors about. The Allies have brought the world's biggest parking lot to your doorstep. Your stomach drops. The invasion isn't coming to Calais after all. It's coming to you. You snap your belt closed with shaking hands, slide into your tunic, and grab your helmet. The bunker hums with adrenaline. Around you, others are waking, shouting for officers, pulling ammo crates open with panicked fingers. The MG nest smells like oil and last night's cigarettes. No one knows what to do. You were told Calais was the real target. Field Marshal von Rundstedt believed it. So did Rommel, though lately he's been pacing like a man with a bad premonition. He'd even said not long ago, the first 24 hours will decide everything. For the Allies, as well as for Germany, it will be the longest day. You hadn't known what he meant then. You do now. Franz loads the MG, muttering about his sister's birthday, of all things. You nod, pretending to care. Your ears ring. Someone outside is shouting in broken French, pointing toward the horizon. A Hauptmann yells back to hold fire until the enemy reaches the beach. It's too far. The shells will fall short. Let them come closer. Let them get stuck in the traps. You climb the ladder to the top of your position. Wine slaps your face. It's colder than you expected in June. You remember the anti-landing devices littered below, the Czech hedgehogs, the stakes with mines on top. You'd laughed when they were installed. Now they seem comically small. The ocean keeps coming. Behind you, there's a whine, high-pitched, unnatural. Your first shell lands miles off, geysering up white foam. The second is closer. The third hits a nearby bunker, and the world turns orange. You duck instinctively. Dust and bits of rock patter your helmet. Somewhere below, a Feldwebel curses. He's still alive. For now. The naval barrage begins in earnest. You stop watching. You just feel it. Like the earth is shivering. They say the USS Texas and Arkansas are out there. You believe them. Your position trembles like a kicked crate. Somewhere, the horizon splits as rocket ships fire their payloads. It looks beautiful from here, like New Year's. Then come the landing craft. Squat, square things bobbing forward like stubborn beetles. LCVPs, you think they're called. You never bothered learning what the letters stand for. You watch the ramps drop, one by one. Men spill into the water. Most wade, some fall. You're too high up to see clearly. It all seems unreal. Then the Hauptmann gives the order. Your MG-42 sings. It kicks in your hands like a living thing. The belt feeds like a blur. Franz calls targets. You obey. There's no time to think. You fire. You reload. You fire again. Smoke rises fast, acrid and oily, stinging your eyes. You see shapes collapse, but they don't stop coming. More and more craft land. The beach is becoming crowded. Some historians argue whether the tide of men that morning was coordinated chaos or just chaos. But from where you stand, it's an unholy avalanche. No finesse, no clever strategy, just raw force. An American tank rumbles out of a landing craft, drops into a hole, and vanishes. You almost laugh. Then another makes it to shore. Then two. They're heading for the shingle, straight at the emplacements. Your laughter dies. You've stopped noticing the shells. You've stopped noticing the screams. Your world has shrunk to three things. Your MG-42, Franz's voice, and the cold metal of the trench wall. But even that doesn't last. A nearby gun crew signals. They're out of ammo. The supply runners never made it. A group of engineers is cutting wire near the seawall. You try to signal the flak gun farther down, but it's silent now, probably wrecked. Franz leans close. They're through the hedgehogs. You nod. You don't feel your legs. A Feldwebel charges past, blowing his whistle like it's a parade. Hold your fire till they reach the bluff, he yells, as if that's going to make a difference. You watch a mortar crew set up, only to scatter when a round lands 2 meters short. A scream breaks from your left. A kid named Müller, barely 18, loses his grip and flees into the open. You want to pull him back. You don't move. You don't even blink. You are no longer a soldier. You are a gear in a dying clock. The Americans are halfway up the beach. The bluff won't hold. You already know that. But you keep your finger on the trigger, like it's the only thing keeping you tethered to the moment. And maybe it is. Your ears are still ringing from the last barrage. And even though the guns have quieted, your body won't stop flinching. Every gust of wind feels like an incoming shell. Every bird call seems suspicious. You duck without realizing it, only to straighten back up with a muttered curse. False alarm. Just the sea groaning against the shore. You're crouched behind the concrete lip of the machine gun nest now, waiting for another order that doesn't come. Your hands smell like oil and burnt powder. Franz has gone quiet. His knuckles are white where they grip the edge of the parapet. He hasn't blinked in a while. You don't speak. What would you even say? Nice weather for the end of the world? It's early morning, but the sky's already turning the color of weak tea. The clouds are low and dirty. Somewhere behind them, fighter planes scream in tight spirals. Spitfires and thunderbolts carving paths through the mist. Occasionally, you catch a glimpse of silver wings flashing in the sun like knives. You duck again. Nothing happens. You realize you've been breathing through your mouth, jaw clenched so hard it hurts. This is the part no one tells you about. The silence between bombardments. It's not peaceful. It's worse. Because it doesn't mean safety. It means something else is coming. Something louder. Something closer. You shift your weight and try not to think about how many minutes it's been since the first shell. It could be 10. It could be 2 hours. Time's doing whatever it wants today. Another soldier, you think his name is Jürgen, climbs up beside you, grinning like he just won a bet. False alarm, he says. They're hitting further west. Maybe this is all just a diversion. You want to believe him. You really do. You even manage half a smile. Then the ground rumbles again, and you both drop flat. It's not a diversion. The field telephone crackles with static and half words. The corporal fiddles with the handset, cursing softly. Someone says something about Carentan, something about the 91st Infantry Division moving north. None of it helps you here. You're not in Carentan. You're in this miserable hole with a belt-fed beast and sand in your boots. You glance toward the sea again. It looks empty. A trick of the light, probably. The mist rolls thick across the surf. You almost convince yourself the landing craft are gone, that maybe it was a one-time push and they've retreated. Then you spot a glint, then another. Dozens. They're still out there. More are coming. Franz taps your shoulder and hands you a canteen. It's warm and tastes like metal, but you drink anyway. Your throat's raw from yelling and powder. You thank him with a nod. He doesn't look away from the water. His eyes are glassy. Do you think they'll bomb again before they come? He asks quietly. You don't answer. The night before is already a blur. You remember dinner, bread, canned sausage, and a cigarette you traded for from a cook with connections. You remember a false air raid around midnight. Everyone scrambled, sirens wailing, only for it to be nothing. You laughed about it then. Now you wonder if it was a warm-up. Someone mentioned paratroopers around 2 a.m. Scattered reports from behind the lines. The flak crews said they saw movement near Saint-Mère-Église. That's inland. Too far to worry about. At least that's what the Obergefreiter said. But then, the radar station at Douvres started reporting strange signals. Planes, lots of them. But not in formation. Not bomber patterns. The operator said it didn't make sense. Ghosts, someone joked. You were too tired to care. Now it haunts you. Historians still debate whether the German High Command was truly asleep at the switch or simply overwhelmed. Depends who you ask. The Kriegsmarine swore the invasion would come at Calais. Some Luftwaffe officers believed in Normandy, but no one wanted to contradict the fat folders on Hitler's desk. So here you are, holding the line on the wrong side of military logic. Your mind drifts back to that radar reading. Ghosts. You wonder how many of them are real now. The corporal finally gets the field phone working. The line crackles, then clears just enough to hear a voice. Hold position. Artillery regrouping. Reinforcements expected. Over. No names, no details, just fragments. You wait for something more, but the static returns, louder than before. The corporal shrugs. Better than nothing, he says. A shadow moves past your right. It's Becker, the young sniper from Dusseldorf, adjusting his scope. He sets up beside you without a word, eyes calm and focused. You've always envied that about him. Becker could shave his beard while the bunker collapses around him. He clicks the bolt into place, rests the barrel on the concrete, and exhales slow. 3 more boats, he murmurs, all heading for that sandbar. You nod. Franz wipes his palms on his trousers. You reload the MG-42 again. The machine gun's heat shield is already warm. That's not good. The cooling barrel system only lasts so long. You're supposed to swap them out after sustained fire, but the spare's still downstairs. You make a mental note, then forget it. There's no time. A shrill whistle sounds from further down the line. 2 quick blasts. That's the signal. You raise your eyes just above the parapet. The sea is alive again. LCVPs are swarming toward the shore, packed with soldiers. You count maybe 15, then lose track. They're weaving through smoke screens and tangled water obstacles like they've done this before. Maybe they have. Sicily, Salerno. Practice runs back in Britain. Doesn't matter. They're here now. Franz breathes faster. This is it, he whispers. You don't reply. You just reach for the trigger. The MG-42 erupts again, its high-pitched roar cutting the air like a chainsaw through wet pine. You trace the shoreline, then the waterline, then the spaces between the crafts. Figures fall, disappear, rise again. You think you see someone waving a flag, but it's gone in the smoke. The Americans don't stop. They keep coming, stumbling, dragging wounded, dragging each other. There's a kind of horror in their persistence. Like ants on a log, undeterred even when the fire hits. A mortar round explodes behind you, tossing gravel across your back. Your ears pop again. You taste dirt. And then the sand shifts. Not literally, just in your head. Because now the beach doesn't look like a defense point. It looks like a funnel. And the Americans are pouring into it by the hundreds. Becker fires 3 shots, calm as ever, then ducks to reload. You cover him automatically. Franz is reloading the MG belt. It's almost like you're a team. Except this team is losing. Suddenly, you hear singing. Or maybe chanting. It's hard to tell. Through the smoke and gunfire, the Americans are yelling something. Short syllables, a rhythm. They're motivating each other. You don't understand the words, but the tone chills you. You think again of the radar ghosts. They weren't ghosts. They were the beginning. And now the sea has opened up its mouth and decided to swallow Normandy whole. Bunkers and all. You don't see them land. You hear them. The soft thumps at first, like someone dropping sacks of grain across the horizon, don't register as anything important. You assume they're distant artillery. But then, you notice something drifting in the sky. Dozens of strange round shapes, floating downward on slow, jerking strings. Some are just specks against the clouds. Others you can see clearly. Dark silhouettes with dangling legs and bulging packs. Franz leans in. Are those ours? He asks. You both squint. Definitely not. Too many. Too fast. Too random. And they're coming down inland behind your position, not from it. That's when your gut drops again, but in a different way this time. Not fear, confusion. The kind that makes you doubt everything you've been told. The front is behind you now. How does that even make sense? You've seen paratroopers before, at least in training films. Your officers called them elite, but reckless. The kind of men who jump from a plane just for the thrill of it. It was easy to sneer when they were theoretical. Not anymore. The horizon is full of them. Hundreds, maybe thousands. The first ones hit the ground hard. Some in open fields, some in hedgerows. A few don't move. Chutes caught in trees. Bad landings. One poor soul gets dragged across a pasture, legs kicking like a wind-up toy. Another crumples against a barn roof. But most of them pop up fast. They scatter with purpose. They know what they're doing. You try to track them through your scope, but they vanish too quickly, into tree lines, behind low stone walls, through fences and creeks. Some carry rifles, some carry strange-looking bags and wire. You see one with a folding bicycle. You blink. Did you imagine that? Historians still debate how well coordinated the American airborne landings were that night. Some say they were a complete mess. Units scattered miles off course, soldiers lost in the dark, radios that never worked. Others argue the chaos itself became an advantage, making it impossible for German defenses to predict anything. Either way, one thing is certain. They're here, and they're not where you want them to be. A shout comes from down the line. Fallschirmjäger. It's a question, not a report. You shake your head. Number, these aren't German jump troops. The silhouettes don't match. And besides, there haven't been German airborne operations in the West for years. Not since Crete. Not since the High Command declared them too costly. Another voice yells, Americana. This time it sticks. The men believe it. You believe it. And suddenly, the bunker doesn't feel as safe as it did 5 minutes ago. Because now you're no longer facing one front. You're surrounded. You duck back down, instinctively covering your back. The concrete wall offers some comfort, but it's psychological. If they come from inland, you're boxed in. Your position was built to resist a seaborne assault, not a two-sided trap. You're a castle with its drawbridge left down. Franz whispers, "What if they come up behind us with knives?" You almost laugh. It's such a cinematic fear, so childish, but part of you believes it too. You imagine them moving like shadows through the mist, slitting throats and cutting cables, bypassing bunkers entirely. You shake the image from your head. Too much time watching banned American films. Still, you press your back to the wall, just in case. A runner arrives breathless from the next position over. He's covered in dirt, helmet askew. Drop troops, he confirms. Reports from Sainte-Marie-du-Mont and Carentan. They're hitting everywhere. You ask who gave the report. He shrugs. Radio chatter. Maybe the 91st. Then he runs off again, as if spreading panic is part of his orders. More shapes fall from the sky. It's like watching leaves in reverse, pulled upward into the clouds, then drifting back down to cause mayhem. You wonder how many they dropped. How many planes did it take? You try to picture the airfields in England. Endless lines of C-47 Dakotas revving in the night. American soldiers chewing gum and slapping each other on the back before boarding. Someone had to organize all that. Someone had to get thousands of men into the sky at once, fly them across the channel in pitch-black darkness, and somehow land them close enough to make a difference. You imagine Eisenhower watching the first planes disappear into the horizon. Did he sleep afterward? You didn't. The night before was a joke. Half alarms, half card games. You and Franz had argued over whether to save your last chocolate bar or eat it before the invasion. You ate it. It doesn't matter now. From the top of the bluff, you watch as tracer fire arcs through the sky. Red and green threads stitching the darkness. Some planes go down. You see at least one burst into flames before it vanishes behind a hedgerow, but most of them escape. The flak guns are too busy with the naval bombardment to hit the transports. You think of Rommel again. A few days ago, he left for Germany, something about his wife's birthday. That fact seems absurd now. Imagine missing D-Day for a cake. But then again, no one expected it to be today. Not even the generals. Not even Hitler, if rumors are true. The Führer was sleeping, and no one dared wake him. Classic. A sudden burst of gunfire erupts behind you. You twist, heart pounding, but it's far off. Maybe a kilometer inland. Then another burst, closer this time. Not sporadic, controlled, disciplined. Someone's engaging the paratroopers. Or trying to. The Americans move fast. They know the terrain better than you'd expect. They have maps, probably photographs, maybe even local guides. The French resistance is stronger than most admit. Even the officers hint at it now and then. when a convoy gets ambushed, or a phone line is mysteriously cut. The resistance. You glance down at the beach again. Still chaos. More men pouring in. But that's just part of it. You realize this whole area is being squeezed. The sea in front, the airborne behind, and civilians in between who may or may not be on your side. Some scholars question whether the Germans were ever really dug in enough in Normandy. You're beginning to understand why. A few bunkers, some concrete nests, a maze of trenches and minefields. None of it matters if the enemy can land wherever they want. A strange thought hits you. The beach isn't the main battlefield anymore. The battle has already skipped past it. You're fighting in a museum diorama while the real war moves inland. You try to refocus. You squint at the tree line behind your position. Movement. A flash of light, too low to be sunlight. Then nothing. You blink. Still nothing. Was it a reflection? A scope? Your imagination? Franz sees it too. He doesn't speak, just tightens the strap on his helmet. You both know what's coming. You reach for your rifle, not the MG this time, just your Carabiner 98K. It feels lighter than usual. Your hands are shaking again. A single crack of gunfire echoes from somewhere behind the hill. Then another, closer. You grip the rifle tighter. It's not just the Americans on the beach anymore. They've come from the sky. And now they're coming for you. At 5:44, you feel it in your teeth before you hear it in your ears. The air changes, like pressure being sucked out of the world. Then the first shell lands, not near you, not even on the beach, but out at sea. A test shot, you think. A naval greeting card. It explodes in a gout of seawater, tall as a house. The second one hits closer. The third one hits a gun emplacement 200 meters down the bluff. You see the flash first, then the plume of shattered earth and steel. You don't see what happens to the crew, and you don't want to. The sound arrives late, a deep concussive whomp that seems to fold your insides inward. Then all hell opens up. This isn't artillery like you've known it before. This is something else, something worse. The Allied fleet, cruisers, destroyers, battleships, has finally started its real performance, and you are front row. The USS Texas, the Arkansas, the Quincy, the Emmons, names you never cared about, never thought would matter, are now calling your exact coordinates their problem. The sky fills with sound, the kind that isn't just noise but a force, like someone tearing open the seams of the air itself, a rolling thunder that shakes the earth in uneven waves. It's not just explosions, it's orchestration. You imagine some bored American naval officer coordinating the fire like a conductor. And now, he says, baton in hand, we'll pulverize Sector D9. You crouch low in the bunker. Franz is already there, curled sideways like a cat, hands over his helmet. You think about joining him, but your job is the MG-42, and the MG-42 doesn't work by itself. So you stay upright, barely, bracing against the wall, watching slivers of daylight punch through the view slit every time a shell lands. The concrete trembles. Fine dust rains down from the ceiling, stinging your eyes. You taste lime and sweat. Something falls behind you. A box of ammo, or maybe someone's tin mess kit. The clang echoes too loud. There's a human instinct that tells you to run from noise like this. But there's nowhere to run. You are, quite literally, buried in place. And the worst part, it's systematic. You start to notice the pattern. Shells fall in grids, working across the bluffs with almost mathematical precision. First to the east, then a bit west, then closer. You whisper to yourself without realizing, now, now, now. each syllable timed with impact. You've seen bombings before, in Sevastopol, in Casino, on newsreels from London. But you've never felt one like this. Not this coordinated, not this intimate. You glance at your watch. 5 minutes have passed. Only 5. A voice shouts outside. Someone running between bunkers. Cover your ears, get to cover. As if any of you need reminding. Another shell hits, closer this time, and part of your ceiling cracks. A chunk of concrete the size of a loaf of bread drops near Franz's foot. He doesn't flinch, just pulls his helmet down lower. Somewhere above, a communications post goes up. You hear the crackle of radio equipment being fried. Sparks dance in the air. The wires that connect you to the neighboring machine gun nests have gone dead. You know because you try them 3 times. Nothing. You step outside for a moment. A stupid decision. But you need air. Or maybe you need proof that the world still exists beyond this echo chamber. The wind nearly knocks you back. Smoke and salt, and the scent of burning rubber assault your nose. You spit on instinct, and then you see the water. It's still there, still endless, still crawling with ships. Landing craft bob like iron insects. Bigger vessels float further out, cannons flashing with each volley. For a moment, you're hypnotized. Then another shell lands to your right, and you dive back in. Inside, Becker is back at the scope. His face is pale, but his hands are steady. They're softening us, he mutters. They know we'll break. You want to argue, say something brave. But he's right. The bunkers weren't made for this kind of war. Rommel had wanted more guns, more concrete, more men. But he got wire and wooden stakes and a handful of teenagers with grenades. A few months ago, Rommel visited this very sector. You remember it well. He asked sharp questions, tapped the walls with his cane, pointed at the sea and said, "We must stop them at the waterline. Not here, not inland, here." You wonder if anyone listened. Now the sea answers him. Another volley hits. This one is different. Higher pitch. You later learn it's naval rocket fire from modified LCTs, landing craft, tank, converted into floating batteries. The kind that fire dozens of rockets in one burst. The kind that shake your soul loose from your ribs. The noise is unbearable. But worse than the noise is the pause afterward. When it goes quiet, completely quiet, for 2 seconds too long. That's when you realize something's coming. You look down the cliffside again. The first landing craft are near the obstacles. Men jump out before they even reach dry sand. Water up to their waists. Some drop immediately. Others push forward. One tries to drag a fallen comrade, then gives up. You don't open fire yet. The officer's orders were clear. Wait until they cluster. Let them feel safe. Let them think they made it. A strange calm settles over you, the kind that comes before the storm. Then, from far to the right, a single German artillery piece opens up. Its shot lands squarely in a row of incoming craft. A direct hit. Flames leap skyward. Cheers erupt from your bunker. Becker actually smiles. It's the only victory you'll see today. Encouraged, the MG nest to your left opens fire. Then another to your right. You wait another few seconds. Timing, timing, timing. Then Franz gives the nod, and you unleash the MG-42 again. The belt rattles, the barrel smokes, the recoil bruises your shoulder, but none of it matters. Because the Americans keep coming. Shells still fall around you. One lands close enough to suck the breath from your lungs. Dust clouds choke the air. Your water canteen is half full, but your mouth feels like cotton. You think of the bakery back home, of real bread, of cold milk. of nothing that smells like gunpowder. You reach for another ammo belt. It jams. You curse, slam it down, fix the feed, fire again. The beach is crowded now. You can't keep track. You fire at movement, at shadows, at anything upright. The MG barrel glows. Franz taps your arm. Change barrel. You do. Hands practiced. Motion automatic. Eyes unfocused. You forget about your name. You forget about time. You forget there's a world beyond this bluff. There is only fire and metal and the ever-growing tide of boots pushing forward no matter how many fall. And above it all, the guns still speak. You don't remember when the MG-42 overheated. It just stopped firing. 1 second, you're holding down the trigger, eyes squinting through smoke and sweat, and the next, nothing. A sick click-click, followed by the harsh stink of burning oil. You yank the barrel loose with shaking fingers, but it's glowing red. Franz is already rummaging for the spare, swearing under his breath. His voice is high-pitched now, like it's been pitched forward by panic. You glance over the edge. The Americans are getting closer. A group has reached the shingle line, diving for cover behind the steel beach obstacles you once joked about. Now they're working in teams, leapfrogging from hedgehog to tank trap, dropping prone, then sprinting again. One of them throws something, a canister-shaped blur, and a second later, smoke erupts 20 meters from your post. White and thick, it pours across the slope like fog from some angry machine. You lose sight of the movement. The slope disappears into grey. You blink hard. Your vision has gone blurry, either the smoke or your own eyes betraying you. The machine gun barrel clatters into place. You slam the top closed and yank the feed belt into position. Franz mutters something, maybe a prayer, maybe a curse, and you both brace for the next wave. But it's hard to shoot when you can't see. You fire short bursts into the smoke anyway, hoping to slow them down. The gun jerks in your hands. The brass casings clatter off the bunker wall. The smell is pure metal and fire now. And still they come. Somewhere in the haze, a flamethrower roars to life. You don't see it. You hear it. A sound like a dragon clearing its throat. Then a billow of orange that lights the smoke from within. Flames curl upward. Someone screams. Not from your nest. One of the others. The scream is cut off quickly. Your hands twitch. You've seen flamethrowers before. In training films mostly. Never this close. Never this real. You shift back from the slit, flattening against the wall, breath shallow. Franz won't even look out anymore. You tell yourself this is just part of the assault, that the Americans are only probing, that the real bulk of their force is still on the water. But the lie doesn't hold. You know what this is. It's a push, a real one. And they've brought everything. Becker arrives out of nowhere, rifle in hand, face streaked with soot. Bunker 14 is gone, he says simply. Direct hit. No one made it out. You nod. He slides down beside you, pressing his back to the same wall. His rifle clinks against the floor. They're climbing the bluff near the draw. Engineers made a hole through the wire. Smoke cover. I saw it happen. Vierville, you ask? He nods. That's supposed to be impossible. The draw at Vierville is steep, narrow, full of traps and crossfire. They were supposed to be funneled and cut down. That was the plan. You laugh, a small bitter sound that doesn't go anywhere. Franz reloads the MG again, but it's more out of routine than intent. The line's collapsing. The whole beach sector is unraveling like a cheap sweater. No one's coming with orders. No flares. No reinforcement. Historians still argue whether the defense at Omaha failed because of poor coordination, or simply because the Allies were too strong. Some say German command underestimated the saturation tactics. Combined naval firepower, smoke, armor, engineers, and sheer volume of men. Others say Rommel's vision of defending on the beach was never fully realized. His obstacles incomplete, his men scattered between weak points. You stop caring about theories. You just want to survive. Another blast shakes the bunker. Something outside groans, wood or metal or both. Franz grips the MG tighter. You think he's whispering to it. You don't interrupt. We all talk to strange things when we think the end might be minutes away. Becker peers out again. They're at the seawall, he says. You don't look. You already know what he'll describe. Some of them have Bangalore torpedoes. Long tubes of explosives used to blow open wire and minefields. You saw one set off earlier, closer to the east. It turned an entire section of barbed wire into confetti and vaporized the man standing behind it. The sound it made wasn't even an explosion. It was a snap, like the earth cracking open. Fall back, Franz asks. You laugh again. Not because it's funny, just because it's absurd. Where? You say. To the chapel. It's an old joke. A chapel sits maybe 500 meters inland, half buried by hedgerows and rubble. It's empty, except for a rusted bell and a statue of St. Michael missing both wings. Once, Becker joked it would be the last place they'd say Mass if the Allies came. Now, it doesn't sound like a joke. Someone runs past the opening. German uniform, rifle slung over one shoulder. He doesn't even look at you. Just a blur of motion heading inland. You don't blame him. The urge to bolt is overwhelming. You glance at your belt. 4 grenades. 2 smoke. 2 fragmentation. Not enough. Orders? Franz asks again. Still none. You finally make a decision. Cover me. You crawl to the rear entrance of the bunker and lift the tarp-covered field radio. The crank is bent. You twist it anyway. Static. Then a faint voice, too garbled to identify. Then nothing. You slam the receiver down and crawl back. They're not answering, you say. Becker shrugs. I don't think anyone's left to answer. That hits harder than any shell. You consider retreat. The bluff has paths back through the woods. Narrow goat trails and trench lines half dug during training exercises. You could take one. Abandon your post. Fall back. Regroup. But regroup with who? Your unit is scattered. The company commander hasn't been seen since dawn. The platoon sergeant's last known position got flattened 30 minutes ago. You'd be regrouping with ghosts, so you stay. And so does Franz. And Becker. Even though it's madness. Even though the machine gun is down to its last working barrel. And your ears haven't stopped ringing in an hour. You peer over the edge again. Through the smoke, you spot something surreal. An American soldier crouched just below a tangle of wire, holding a map. He's marking something with a pencil. Calm as a man sketching a tree. You raise your rifle. You hesitate. He moves out of view. Gone. Franz nudges you. They're flanking. I know. Then we're... I know. A pause. You hear a whirring overhead. Not aircraft. Drones don't exist yet. Just another illusion. Your brain scrambling for explanations that don't belong in this century. The beach is a blur now. Everything's obscured by smoke and flame. But you know what's underneath. Movement. Determination. An enemy who refuses to turn back. The Allies have planted themselves on your coastline, and they're not leaving. You look at your hands, filthy, trembling. You don't feel heroic. You don't feel anything. Just tired and afraid and impossibly young. Franz leans his head back. Becker lights a cigarette, coughs, and offers it around. You take it. You breathe in. You listen. Somewhere out there, footsteps crunch on gravel. You reload on instinct now. Strip the belt, slam it in, yank the bolt, check the feed. Your fingers do what your brain barely registers. Each motion comes with a whisper of doubt. Does it even matter anymore? Outside the slit, the smoke drifts thinner, just enough to catch glimpses between the clouds of white and grey. The tide hasn't turned. If anything, it's grown bolder. The landing craft are still unloading, one after another. You wonder how many they've got. Hundreds, thousands. It feels endless, like the whole world is stepping ashore. You angle the barrel down the slope again, eyes scanning for movement. There, to the right of the hedgehogs, 3 shapes crouched low. One of them points. Another one runs. You squeeze the trigger. Nothing. Franz slaps your shoulder. It's jammed. You rip the top open, teeth clenched, yanking the belt free and flipping the cover again. A spent casing is caught sideways. You fish it out with the edge of your knife and try again. This time it fires. The MG-42 screams into the fog, short bursts tracing through the gaps. One figure drops. The others vanish. Maybe you hit one. Maybe they just moved. The smoke swallows everything. Franz is shaking beside you. His helmet has shifted backward, exposing his forehead. You reach over and pull it down, like a mother correcting her child's hat. He doesn't react, just keeps watching. You see that tank, he whispers. You blink, confused. Then you see it too, on the far left, just past the steel beach defenses. A Sherman, half hidden behind a concrete block, turret already turning inland. They must have cleared a path. That, or they bulldozed one. The engineers have been working non-stop, under fire, under smoke, pushing forward yard by yard. Franz spits. They brought armor already. They're not waiting. And they aren't. Another one follows, then another. They form a crooked line, advancing slow but steady. Their treads churn sand and broken metal like it's flour. A Panzerfaust team farther down tries to hit one, but the rocket veers off course. Too much wind, bad angle. The tank replies with a blast that shatters the nearest wall and sends up a tower of dust. It occurs to you that the bluff is no longer high ground. Not when the enemy can level it from below. Not when they can bring the cliff down one shell at a time. You look for the flanking team Becker warned about. There, they're edging along the side of the slope, using debris for cover. Smart, slow, careful. Like they've trained for this exact setup. Probably have. You glance at the MG again. One more belt left, maybe 2. Franz, you say, we hold this line, or we run. We can't do both. He doesn't answer. Becker returns, rifle in one hand, his other cradling something wrapped in cloth. You realize it's his shoulder, bleeding. A clean line of red across his sleeve. Got clipped, he mutters. I'm fine. Lost the guys near the crater. We're it. How many? 3, 4. Rest are down or missing. Command? He laughs. No such thing. You hand him a field dressing. He wraps it tight, teeth clenched. You don't ask how bad it really is. Outside, the first tank fires again. This one hits closer. The bunker shakes. A metal box in the corner tips over, spilling rations and a dented enamel cup. We should fall back, Becker says, wincing. Franz looks at you. You look at the gun, then back to the smoke. Somewhere down there a whistle blows. Not one of yours. A signal. Moments later, more movement. A new wave of infantry. hundreds maybe, sprinting across the beach, fanning out in practiced chaos. Their boots strike sand, then stone, then dirt, as they climb the slope. And that's when it hits you. The beach refuses to end. You've poured bullets into it for hours, and it's still full, still feeding men into the grinder. You and Franz lay down fire again. Burst, reload, burst. Your shoulder aches, your wrists are raw. Becker covers the side with his rifle, firing slow, deliberate shots, counting each one like gold. His aim is good. He drops a runner mid-stride. The others scatter. But it's not enough. The Americans are inside the wire. It starts with a pop, then another. Smoke grenades, this time tossed uphill, not down. They fill the trench line with thick, stinging haze. You can hear boots slapping earth. Shouts, English, short commands. Left, suppress, move up. Your throat tightens. Franz pulls the last belt from the ammo tin. You both know what it means. One more run, then the fallback. A figure looms in the smoke, close, too close. You swing the barrel toward it and fire. The figure drops, but now they're shouting all around. Gunfire, screams. A grenade clinks somewhere off stone. You dive. The blast is dull and close, like thunder trapped in your skull. Dust rains down. Your ears ring anew. You blink. Franz is coughing beside you, alive. Becker is still moving, dragging himself toward the rear exit. Go, he yells, go now. You grab the MG, sling it across your back, and half lift Franz to his feet. He's limping. Maybe shrapnel. Maybe twisted something. Doesn't matter. You force him forward. The back exit is tight. Just a concrete hatch barely wider than your shoulders. You push through it into open air. A thin trench leads inland, winding between shrubs and rocks. You duck low, dragging Franz, Becker behind you. The sounds fade behind. The gun nest is gone now, at least in your mind. Overrun, claimed. You don't look back. The path forks. One way leads toward the ravine, the other toward the chapel. Chapel, Franz mutters. You nod. Becker grunts his agreement. You move. The ground is soft underfoot, torn by shell craters and boot prints. Every step is a question mark. Will this hold? Will that tree conceal a sniper? Will the next rise bring machine gun fire or silence? Somewhere to the north, you hear tank treads grinding on gravel. Yours or theirs? You don't stop to find out. The chapel emerges through the trees like a ghost. Weathered stone, half a roof, a broken cross. It's not sanctuary, it's shelter. You duck inside. Becker slumps against a pillar, breathing hard. Franz collapses onto the steps of the altar. You crouch near the door, rifle ready. No one speaks. For a minute, maybe two. There is only wind, and birdsong, and far-off echoes of battle. Then Franz whispers, "They're going to take it, aren't they?" You don't reply. He already knows the answer. You sit on the chapel floor, trying to catch your breath, but the air is thick with dust and old incense, like the building still remembers what peace used to smell like. The statue of St. Michael leans sideways, eyes chipped away by weather or war, you're not sure which. A sliver of morning light cuts through the broken window, painting the pews in gold. It would be beautiful, if not for the gun resting across your knees. Becker groans quietly. He's pressing a hand to his shoulder, but the bandage is soaked through now. Franz sits against the wall with his head tilted back, mouth slightly open, eyes closed, not asleep, just gone quiet the way soldiers sometimes do when they've run out of anything to say. The MG42 lies across his lap, barrel still smudged black with soot. He hasn't let go of it. No one speaks. There's nothing useful to say. You hear the battle, though, even here, muffled and distant, like a storm rumbling from another valley. Machine guns, mortars, the low whomp of shells digging into earth. The rhythm of it all reminds you of a funeral procession, or maybe a bad heartbeat, one you can't sync with. Outside the door, a short gravel path winds down to what used to be a schoolhouse. The roof's gone, but the sign still reads École. That's how close you are to the village now. Too close. This was never supposed to be a front-line position. Yet here you are, guarding a chapel like it matters. A whistle cuts the air somewhere far off, then a single rifle shot, then silence again. You glance at your map, creased, sweat-stained, and barely readable anymore. According to it, the front line should still be down at the beach, but paper doesn't account for smoke or willpower. The Americans moved faster than expected, and now the line is a blur. Franz finally opens his eyes. There were supposed to be mines, he says. There were, you reply. He nods slowly. Then why didn't they stop them? You don't answer, because you remember the storms last week. The tides might have shifted the fields. Or maybe the engineers were late. Maybe they didn't finish laying them. Maybe the Americans found a map. Who knows? You stopped pretending to understand these things a long time ago. Some scholars still debate the effectiveness of the Atlantic Wall. It looked impressive on maps, in propaganda reels, Fortress Europe. But even Rommel had complained about it. Too little, too late. Too many gaps, too few resources, and no real way to plug the holes when everything depended on guesswork. You hear something metallic outside, not gunfire, just metal on metal, like a tool dropped on concrete. You raise your rifle. Becker shifts to his knees, pulling his sidearm free. He doesn't speak, just gives a slight nod, signaling he heard it too. Franz stays put. His leg isn't working right. You edge to the doorway, moving slow, careful, just enough to see. A French farmer. He's maybe 50, thin, hunched, pushing a bicycle with one hand, a milk can balanced awkwardly in the other. He stops when he sees you, blinks, doesn't run. You aim the rifle at his chest. He doesn't flinch. He lifts a hand, not high, not slow, just a lazy wave. Then he keeps walking, past the schoolhouse, down the road, around a bend. You lower your rifle. Why didn't you stop him? Becker asks. You shrug. He could be resistance, he adds. Then we're dead already, you say. It's not bravado, just logic. If he's resistance, he's already given your position away. If he's not, then pointing a gun at a civilian buys you nothing but guilt. You choose the quiet path, not the noble one, just the quiet one. You sit again. The chapel feels smaller now. 10 minutes pass, maybe more. Then a rustling sound behind the altar. You all freeze. Franz starts to speak, but you gesture sharply. Silence. Another sound, softer, like breathing. Then the creak of a wooden floorboard. You swing your rifle up and round the side of the altar. A boy, 8, maybe 9 years old, curled under the altar like a hedgehog, eyes wide and rimmed with dirt. His hands clutch a loaf of bread like it's treasure. You exhale through your teeth. Get out, you say in French. He doesn't move. You repeat it, gentler. Sors d'ici. Allez. Still nothing. Becker joins you. He's just a kid. Franz laughs, a tired, wheezing sound. He's better hidden than we are. You glance at the boy again. His eyes don't leave you, unblinking, not afraid, just watchful, like a stray dog deciding whether your hands are kind or cruel. You kneel down slowly and gesture for him to go. He slips out the side door like a shadow. Gone. Becca stares at the empty space beneath the altar. I thought we were the ghosts. You almost smile, but outside the wind shifts and you hear boots, multiple pairs, crunching gravel. Franz stiffens. You scramble to the door and peek around the frame. American helmets. 3 men, fanned out, rifles ready, moving slow, clearing buildings, not running, not shouting. This isn't the charge up the beach anymore. This is the cleanup, the methodical advance, and they're good at it. You duck back. They're here, you whisper. Where? Becca asks. Close. 5 seconds close. No one panics. It's almost impressive, the way your body stays still when your heart is hammering like it wants to run ahead without you. You grip your rifle tighter. Franz raises the MG, aiming toward the entrance. Becca clicks his pistol safety off. The door creaks. You hold your breath. A figure steps through, American uniform, rifle low, scanning. You could fire. You don't. Not yet. Another figure follows, covering the flank. The third hangs back, watching the path. They're young, like you, mud-splattered, faces smeared with camouflage paint. They don't look like killers, but neither do you. For a second, no one moves. Then Becca shouts. You don't remember the word, just the volume. The first American spins toward the sound, and Franz fires. The MG roars once, twice, then jams again. The Americans drop. One dives for cover behind the door frame. The second rolls into the aisle and fires blindly. The third opens up from outside, rounds slamming into the stone above your head. You return fire. 1, 2, 3 shots. Becca fires 2, then falls back, dragging Franz with him. The Americans shout commands. Left, push in, clear it. You toss a smoke grenade. It hisses, flooding the room with white. You use it to retreat, slipping out the side entrance and into the trees. The others follow, stumbling, ducking, not speaking. You run. You don't look back. The chapel falls behind. So does everything else. You're no longer a soldier defending a beach. You're something else now. You're a ghost, finally. And the war keeps going, with or without you. The forest doesn't offer safety, just silence. You move fast, too fast for tired legs and blistered feet, but your body doesn't ask permission anymore. It just obeys. The trees blur past in streaks of green and brown, each branch a potential threat, each shadow a maybe soldier. The MG is slung awkwardly over your shoulder, banging against your ribs. Becca limps behind, pale and sweating. Franz tries to keep up, but stumbles every dozen steps. No one talks, not even to say, this way. The path isn't a path, not really. Just a depression in the forest floor that might have been a trench line, or a drainage ditch, or a deer track. You follow it because it heads away from the sea, away from the chapel, away from the rising tide of khaki. After 10 minutes, maybe 15, you reach a cluster of trees thick enough to hide in. You duck beneath the branches and collapse to your knees. Becca slides down beside you, back against a tree. Franz sinks into the mud with a grunt and doesn't get up. You breathe, deep, shaking gulps. The forest smells like wet bark and fear. Far behind, the sound of boots fades, for now. You listen for engines, for dogs, for that awful, unmistakable rhythm of organized search. But all you hear are birds. Somehow they've returned, singing like nothing's happened. The MG is useless now, barrel warped, ammo gone. You unsling it, lay it gently in the grass like a tired friend, and leave it there. You feel lighter, not braver, just lighter. Franz groans. I think something's broken. You crouch beside him. His boot is soaked, not just with mud. You unlace it carefully. His ankle is swollen, turning shades that don't belong on skin. Could be sprained, could be worse, doesn't matter. He won't be marching far. Becker tosses you a bandage from his pouch. Wrap it, tight. You do. Franz winces but doesn't complain. Then you all sit, just for a while. Just long enough to let the panic settle into something more manageable. Not calm exactly, just numb. Eventually, Becker speaks. We're cut off. You nod. No radio, no runners, no command. You nod again. Do we surrender? You stare at him. It's not a question you were ready to answer. We're surrounded, he continues. They'll push inland fast. Maybe they already have. If we stay in the trees, they'll find us. If we move, they'll find us. If we shoot, they'll shoot back. They've got armor, air cover, maps. You want to argue. But he's not wrong. Still, the word surrender scrapes against something inside you. It feels too final, too heavy, like admitting everything you've done up to now was pointless. Or, Becker says, more gently, we try to reach the next line. Franz laughs through gritted teeth. What line? Becker doesn't answer. You pull out your map again. It's more of a joke than a tool at this point. Torn, faded. The edges flake away in your fingers. You trace the path from the chapel inland toward Formigny. That's where the 350 seconds rear elements were last reported. If they haven't been scattered like you, maybe there's a fallback point. Maybe. We can try for Formigny, you say. Becker nods. We'll have to move tonight. You all fall silent again. Around you, the trees creak. The sun filters through in patches, too warm for a battlefield. You hear a rustle and freeze, rifle raised. But it's only a deer staring back at you with black, unreadable eyes before bolting. You lower the rifle. Franz breaks the silence. You remember the barracks in Le Mans, with the painted windows. You blink. Of all things, he brings up that place. The windows were fake, painted on a solid wall to make the building look less like a military depot and more like a school. The illusion was perfect from a distance. You remember staring at it for weeks before realizing. A funny trick, now forgotten by anyone who didn't sleep under it. You nod. Yeah. There was a bakery nearby, real bread. Still dreaming about bread. I'm not dreaming, he says. That's the problem. You smile despite yourself. Becker leans forward. There was a rumor back then about the Russians, that they'd taken back Kiev, that the war would turn soon. You remember that too. Whispers in the barracks. Hopes wrapped in newspaper ink and half-truths. Always one offensive away from being over. Always just a little longer. The war turned, Becker says. Just not the way we thought. No one speaks after that. Eventually, you scout ahead. Just a quick recon. The forest opens into a field bordered by hedgerows. Classic bocage, dense, tangled, and slow to move through. Perfect for defense. Terrible for retreat. You spot movement in the distance. American troops. 10, 15. Hard to tell through the branches. They move in a line, cautious but confident. They're sweeping the area. You crawl back to the others. Patrol nearby. We stay hidden. Becker nods. Franz doesn't look up. The patrol passes within 50 meters, close enough to hear them joke. One of them whistles a tune, off-key and cheerful. You don't recognize it. Must be American. Something light, something casual. It grates on your ears. They move on. Time stretches. The sun climbs. You sleep in shifts. One watching, two resting. You chew hard bread from your ration pouch and sip from a canteen that tastes like rust. The forest stays quiet. No planes, no mortars. Just this slow, strange lull. At dusk you move. Franz can barely walk, so you take turns supporting him. Every step is slow. Every crack of a twig makes your heart leap. But the Americans don't return. Not yet. You keep to the shadows, ducking under branches, crawling when you have to. You bypass a ruined barn, a smoking tank, a dead horse sprawled in a ditch. The smell is worse than the sight. You don't stop. By midnight, you're near Formigny, or what's left of it. The village is dark, burned, abandoned. A few German soldiers huddle in the cellar of a house with no roof. They don't even blink when you arrive. One of them offers water. Another offers a shrug. No officers, no orders. Just men in grey, waiting for a war that's already moved on. You sit against the wall, Becker on one side, Franz on the other. The night is quiet, too quiet. You know it won't last. Somewhere out there, the next wave is forming. But for now, for just this moment, you're still breathing, and that's something. You don't sleep in Formigny, not really. The cellar smells like wet stone, oil, and fear. You find a spot between a broken chair and a sack of spoiled onions, curl your legs in, and close your eyes. But every time you start to drift, something drags you back. Distant gunfire, someone coughing, the creak of boots on floorboards above. The sound of war moving like weather, always shifting. Around you are 5 or 6 other men, none from your unit. One wears the black tunic of the panzer troops. Another has Luftwaffe insignia, though you doubt he's ever flown. It's a patchwork of uniforms and dirt. No one talks much. You're all holding different threads of the same unraveling sweater. Franz sleeps, or maybe he just passed out. His leg is bandaged tighter now, elevated on a plank. He hasn't said anything since you crossed into the village. You check his pulse once. Still there, still strong. That's enough for now. Becker's awake beside you. He's cleaning his sidearm with what little oil he has left, hands methodical, face blank. The gash in his shoulder seeps through the cloth again, but he doesn't seem to notice. Maybe he's doing it just to feel like something still makes sense. I heard them at Virville, he says softly, not looking at you. They're through, pushed past the bluff. Some units surrendered. Others were cut off. You nod, barely. You figured as much. The way things fell apart, it was only a matter of time. The draw collapsed, he continues. Once they took the road, they moved fast. He doesn't say what you're both thinking. That road runs straight to here. Historians often argue how the Americans broke through at the Virville draw. Some credit smoke screens and suppressive fire. Others point to sheer luck, that one of the machine gun nests on the cliff malfunctioned at the worst possible moment. The truth depends who you ask. But what you know, deep in your bones, is that no defense lasts forever. Not against the sea, not against time, and not against an enemy that refuses to stay where they're supposed to. The panzer soldier finally speaks. We have to move at dawn. Where? Becker asks. He shrugs. South, maybe to St. Lo, if the roads are open. Big if, you mutter. The man doesn't argue, just pulls a crust of bread from his tunic and tears it in half. He eats slowly, like he's chewing thoughts more than food. Outside, a dog barks once, then stops. Wind rattles the window frame above. Becca leans back. You remember the first time you fired a rifle? You glance at him. Training camp. First week, he continues. They gave us those paper silhouettes. Told us to imagine they were enemies. I couldn't do it. I kept thinking it looked like my uncle. You almost smile. I missed 3 shots before I figured it out. I had to stop imagining and just shoot. You nod. I never thought I'd miss the paper men. The Panzer soldier chuckles. They never fired back. No one laughs. You stand and stretch your legs. The cellar is cramped, ceiling barely shoulder height, but you need to move. You climb the stairs slowly, rifle slung loose, and push the door open just enough to peer outside. Formigny looks like a ghost village. Houses with their shutters blown off. A church spire with a shell gouge in its side. The main road is quiet, but rutted from tank treads and boot prints. You see no movement, just smoke in the distance. The low, persistent kind that means something is still burning. You step outside for a moment, just to feel the air. It's cooler than it was. The sky's beginning to lighten. Hints of dawn brushing the clouds pink and silver. You breathe deep. It smells like ash, gunpowder, and lilacs. Somehow, the flowers are still blooming, clinging to a stone wall like they don't know what's happening. You scan the road again. Nothing yet. But they're coming. You can feel it in your spine. You return to the cellar. We move at first light. The others agree without argument. By the time the sun crests the hills, you're already gone. Franz leans on you. Becca walks with a slight limp, and the others fan out ahead. No formation, no command, just instinct. South and east, towards St. Lo, or what's left of it. You've heard rumors it's still holding, that elements of the 3rd Parachute Division are regrouping there. You don't know if it's true. Doesn't matter. It's a direction. You pass burned-out trucks, fields trampled by boots and tank tracks. A half-crushed sign still reads, Le Camp. A few kilometers back, you saw a cart overturned in a ditch, a trail of looted belongings scattered behind it. Clothes, a doll, a framed photograph. You didn't stop to look closer. Birds scatter as you move through the bocage, thick hedgerows forming natural walls on either side of the narrow lanes. Becca keeps an eye on the ridges. You do too. This is perfect ambush country. But the Americans haven't reached this stretch yet. Not yet. Franz stumbles. You catch him. He mutters something about needing water. You pass him your canteen. It's nearly empty. You all share what's left. Then, just after midday, you reach a crossroads, and you see them. 2 figures. American uniforms. Not a patrol. Scouts maybe. They haven't seen you yet. They're up the road, crouched beside a wrecked cart, scanning the area. You drop low. The others follow suit. Becca inches forward to get a better look. 2. M1 carbines. No helmets. Probably out ahead of a main column. What do we do? The Panzer soldier asks. You weigh your options. Avoid them. Try to circle wide. But the road is the only path that supports Franz's weight. If you go into the hedgerows, you lose speed and time, and you're already running low on both. Wait, you say. The Americans shift position, laughing about something. One of them points at a chicken in the ditch. The other pulls out a candy bar. You watch, not for weakness, for humanity. You need to see it. You need to remember, because if they spot you, they'll shoot. And if they shoot, you'll shoot back, and it'll begin all over again. But they don't. After 10 minutes, They move on. Back up the road toward their own lines. You wait 5 more just to be sure. Then you move again. Franz is dragging now. His boot is soaked through. Becker finally hoists him up, half carrying him across the road. No complaints, no words, just forward, always forward. You pass another milestone, St. Lo, 14 kilometers. It might as well say 100, but it's something. By the time you reach the orchard, your boots are soaked through with mud and your socks feel like paper mache. Every step sucks at your soles. Your legs stopped aching hours ago. Now they just tremble, like they've forgotten how to hold you up. The others aren't faring much better. Becker's face is pale beneath the dirt, and Franz is leaning most of his weight on a scavenged walking stick. No one complains. Complaining takes energy. You find shelter under a thick canopy of apple trees near Colleville-sur-Mer. The blossoms are still clinging to the branches, despite the distant thunder of artillery. The contradiction makes you pause. How can anything so fragile survive this long? You drop to one knee and scan the area. The orchard stretches across a slight rise, surrounded by high hedgerows, dense walls of green and thorn that block both bullets and vision. Somewhere past them lies the road to Saint-Lô. Somewhere past that, the rest of the wall. Franz sinks against a tree and winces. You check his ankle again, swollen, raw. The wrap has held, but barely. He's been biting his tongue for kilometers. We should stop, you say. No one argues. The orchard is quiet. Too quiet, you think at first. But then you hear the hum. Not of engines or gunfire, but bees, distant, steady, gentle. The trees are full of them, working like nothing's wrong. It's maddening and calming at once. You find an old ladder propped against one of the trunks and climb just high enough to see over the hedgerow. There's a field on the other side, and beyond it, a low farmhouse. Stone walls, slate roof, chimneys still intact. No movement, no flags. Could be empty, could be a trap. You drop back down. We stay here a while. Recover, you say. Becker nods. Franz doesn't respond. His eyes are closed, head tilted toward the sun. You hope he's sleeping. You hope it's rest, not something worse. You sit, lean back against a tree, and close your own eyes for a second. Just 1 second. A breeze drifts through, carrying the scent of blossoms and manure. Somewhere in the distance a cow moos once, loud and lonely. Then a voice. Not yours, not Becker's, not Franz. It's French. You open your eyes. A girl, maybe 17, stands at the edge of the orchard. She's wearing a pale blue dress, wrinkled and muddy at the hem. In her hands, a wicker basket, mostly empty. Her eyes flick between you, the MG abandoned in the grass, Becker's uniform, the blood-stained wrap on Franz's leg. She doesn't run. Partez, she says flatly. Go. You raise a hand, palm open. We're not here to hurt anyone. Her expression doesn't change. She repeats it. Partez. You glance at Becker. He shrugs. Not exactly a warm welcome. You speak again, softer. We're leaving. Just resting. That's all. She studies you for another long second. Then she tosses the basket to the ground. It lands with a thud and rolls. Inside, 3 bruised apples, a hard heel of bread, a rag tied around something lumpy. Then she walks away. Just like that. Gone. You retrieve the basket. Inside the rag, a boiled potato and a chunk of cheese. You split it 3 ways. No one says thank you, because none of you are sure who to thank. But you eat. And for the first time in what feels like days, you taste something other than fear and ash. Some historians argue the French civilians in Normandy were more sympathetic to the Germans than the history books say. Others claim the opposite, that every farmhouse hid a resistance fighter, every child a spy. The truth, somewhere in the middle maybe. But you'll remember that girl, not because she helped you, but because she didn't turn you in. The food revives Franz just enough to sit upright. He blinks into the sun. How long do you think until they reach here? Becker wipes his hands on his trousers. By tonight, tomorrow at the latest. You nod. The road from Omaha is shorter than it looks. And now that the Americans have tanks, smoke screens and working radios, the only thing that slows them is terrain. Bocage country. These hedgerows are a maze, sure. But mazes don't stop armies. They just reroute them. You glance at your map again. It's a joke by now, creased, smudged, mostly useless. But it still shows where the 352nd was supposed to regroup. Not far. Just past Trevier. You point. We go here. Franz groans. That's uphill. Everything's uphill, Becker mutters. Still, you move. Because moving is what keeps you alive. Not shooting, not hiding, just movement. The orchard fades behind you. You follow the edge of a shallow creek through more hedgerows, ducking under vines, pushing past nettles. The afternoon sun slants low through the leaves, dappling the path in gold. It would be peaceful if you weren't expecting machine gun fire at every turn. Then you see the crater. Wide, fresh, blackened edges. Smoke still curling from the center. An artillery strike recent. You crouch low, scanning. Around the blast, 4 men. German uniforms, torn, scattered, wrong. You avert your eyes. Franz doesn't. He just stares. Not out of horror. Out of familiarity. That could have been us, he says. You say nothing. You skirt the crater and move on. Past it lies a dirt road, pocked with ruts, flanked by trees. Becker halts, raises a hand. Up ahead, a group of soldiers. German, maybe a dozen. Resting beside a pair of parked trucks. One has a broken axle, the other still runs. The officer, tall, gaunt, red-eyed, waves as you approach. You're with the 352nd. Yes, you reply. Where's your unit? You shake your head. Gone. He sighs. Ours too. We're heading east. There's word of a new line near Villa Bocage. Becker frowns. That's deep. I know, but we can't stay here. The Americans are moving fast. Took Colleville this morning. Bayeux, maybe, by nightfall. You trade information. They offer you a seat in the truck. You load Franz in the back and climb up beside him. Becker rides shotgun. The engine coughs to life, belching black smoke. The road is rough, the shocks non-existent, but it moves. You pass abandoned tanks, burnt-out wagons, shoes in the ditch. A wooden sign reads Treviers, scorched and leaning sideways. Someone in the truck begins to hum a song under their breath. You don't recognize it, probably from before the war. Franz finally falls asleep. His chest rises and falls slow and steady. You watch him, not because you're worried, but because you need something human to anchor yourself to. And still, the truck rolls on. The war is changing. You can feel it. It's no longer about holding the coast, or defending bunkers, or holding high ground. It's about survival. And the road ahead is long. The road beyond Trevier is barely a road at all, just packed dirt scored with tire marks, boot prints, and the long, dragging streaks left by retreating equipment. It winds past pastures and stone cottages, most of them abandoned now, Curtains torn, chickens loose in the fields. One cottage has a door swinging on a single hinge, tapping rhythmically against the frame as you pass, like it's trying to remember what it once protected. The truck limps on. You bounce in the back, shoulder braced against a jerry can to keep from slamming into Franz with every rut. He's still unconscious, or just asleep, if you're lucky. His leg jerks sometimes when the truck hits a rock. Becca watches the road ahead, alert, but silent. You wonder if he's counting crossroads, hedgerows, or the number of things left behind. The officer driving says little. He's from another battalion, maybe the 726th, maybe what's left of it. There are only 4 others in the group now. 2 look barely old enough to shave. One of them keeps adjusting a bandage on his hand, as if willing it to heal faster. The other stares out the back of the truck, like he's waiting for someone to call him home. The landscape looks peaceful if you ignore the craters. Rolling hills, summer grass, birds skimming low. You pass a field of cows, surprisingly calm, grazing beside a burnt-out Panzer IV. Its turret is blackened and twisted, the hatch open like a mouth stuck mid-scream. Someone survived that, Becca says quietly. You nod. Or didn't get out fast enough. No one responds. By the time you reach the next village, Mosel's, it's early evening. The sky turns bronze. Smoke trails stretch westward in long, low ribbons. You smell bread somewhere, fresh, maybe burned. You can't tell anymore. Everything smells like a memory. The truck pulls into what used to be a town square. A broken fountain, half a flagpole, a poster of Hitler peeling from a wall. There's a makeshift checkpoint here. Not soldiers, not really. Just men with rifles and nervous eyes. One waves you through. The officer driving nods but doesn't stop. Villages like this won't hold, he mutters. No radios, no command, just hope. You lean over the side and glance back. A line of wagons creeps behind you, horses pulling carts overloaded with bags, children, furniture. One woman rides with a chicken in her lap. The chicken looks confused. So do the children. Somewhere nearby, a dog barks again. The same tone, the same rhythm, like it's been following you for days without ever being seen. A kilometer beyond Mosel's, the truck stutters, coughs, stops. The officer curses. You hop down, feet squelching in mud. He kicks the tire once, then opens the hood. Steam billows out. Overheated, he mutters. We walk. You unload Franz. He's awake now, just barely. Eyes glazed but aware. He grits his teeth as you lower him down. No more trucks, he asks. You shake your head. He doesn't complain. The road forks. East to Villers-Bocage, south to Saint-Lô. Becca kneels by the signpost, brushing away mud with his sleeve. Someone's carved a symbol into the wood. 2 crossed lines in a circle. Resistance, a marker, a joke. No one knows. You go east. You move slower now, keeping off the road when you can. Fields give way to forest again, but thinner this time, less cover. The group sticks close, eyes scanning every ridge, every tree line. You pass wreckage again. A German truck upside down in a creek. A motorcycle wedged between trees. An ammo crate cracked open and stripped clean. Becca whistles low at one point. You turn and see it. A row of boots, neatly lined along a fence. 4 pairs. No one in sight. Why would anyone do that? One of the younger soldiers asks. No one answers. You keep walking. Dusk stretches long. The clouds go lavender, then steel grey. By the time you reach a farmhouse with light leaking from its cellar window, it's nearly dark. You knock. No answer. You knock again. Then Becker opens the door himself. Inside, nothing but straw, a few crates, a pair of rusted farm tools. You bed down anyway. Franz lies on the straw, eyes closed. He mutters something about his sister's dog, then falls silent again. You sit by the window, rifle across your lap. Becker leans on the opposite wall, eyes closed, not asleep. After a while, he says, I keep waiting for someone to tell us what to do. You nod. I keep expecting the Feldwebel to show up, or an order to fall in, but... He trails off. That's the thing, isn't it? The war was always about doing what you were told. Holding lines, digging holes, firing when instructed. Now there are no lines, no instructions, just motion. If you stop moving, you fall behind. If you fall behind, you disappear. Outside, the stars come out, one by one. You hear the creak of an aircraft overhead, slow, not a bomber, a transport, dropping more supplies, maybe men, maybe leaflets. You wonder if the Allies are already planning tomorrow's push. Probably. You know how they think now. They take a ridge, a road, a rail line, then move again before the dust settles. They never sit still. The wind shifts. You hear faint engine noise, not close, but not far. Becker sits up straight. Armored column, he whispers. You both crawl to the edge of the window and peer out. On the horizon, a faint flicker. Headlights, moving west to east. You count 5, 6, maybe more. Not fast, but steady. The sound of progress. Becker sighs. They're through. You nod. You feel it in your chest. Not fear exactly. Just inevitability. You lie back on the straw, staring at the wooden beams above. One has initials carved into it. JP 1933. Probably a farmhand years ago. You wonder if he made it through the war. You close your eyes. You dream of a bridge made of helmets. You don't know which side they belong to. You wake to the sound of creaking wood. Not the gentle settling of a house in the night, but the sharp, strained groan of something heavy, stepping on the floor above you. Your eyes open instantly. Becker's already awake, finger to his lips. The others stir quietly, like animals sensing a predator nearby. Franz lifts his head, but says nothing. You wait. The steps continue, slow and deliberate. Whoever's up there isn't in a hurry. That's the unsettling part. A rushed intruder you can deal with. Surprise, momentum, chaos. But this is calm, controlled, dangerous. Becker crawls toward the stairs, pistol drawn. You follow, rifle in hand. The others fan out behind overturned crates, each of you holding your breath like it's ammunition. The steps stop. Then, a knock. Not at the front door, on the floorboard itself. 3 times. A pause. 3 more. You recognize it as a signal, though you don't know what it means. Becker looks at you. You shrug. Then a voice, muffled through the floor. Camarades? French. Not loud. Careful. You reply before thinking. Nous sommes soldats allemands. Blessés. Pas de combat. We are German soldiers, wounded, not fighting. A silence. Then a few cautious footsteps retreat. A hatch creaks. A trapdoor, probably. A moment later, the front door opens and shuts. You and Becker rush upstairs. The house is empty. No sign of movement. Just the smell of something warm. Coffee. No roasted grain. Ersatz, maybe. Someone had been here, watching. On the table, a tin cup, half full, still steaming. And beside it, a torn scrap of paper with a few words scrawled in pencil. The road to Saint-Lô is no longer yours. You stare at the note. Some historians debate how widespread French resistance really was during the early hours of the Normandy invasion. Some argue that locals largely stayed neutral, waiting to see which side would win. Others insist the resistance was everywhere, hidden in plain sight, quietly guiding, signaling, sabotaging. After this, you stop questioning it. Back downstairs, Franz is propped against the wall, pale but alert. Was it the Americans? He asks. No, you say. Worse. People who know the terrain. Becca tosses the note to the ground. You move out within the hour. There's no discussion, no breakfast, just motion. The day is already warm. Clouds stretch like bruises across the sky. You march in silence through tangled hedgerows and down dirt paths that twist like veins. Every turn feels like a decision. Every decision feels like it might be the last. You cross a small bridge over a dried-up stream, where someone scrawled a swastika in chalk on a stone pillar, then crossed it out with a thick red X. Fresh, angry. The message is clear. They're everywhere, Becca mutters. Not just Americans, but civilians. Ghosts, eyes in windows, boots in barns. You pass a field with scarecrows dressed in Wehrmacht uniforms. Not real ones, just makeshift tunics, cardboard helmets, toy rifles. A joke, or a warning. The air smells like something burning. Manure, wood, oil. Hard to tell. You find a farmhouse near the crest of a hill and duck inside for rest. The place is empty. A table still set for breakfast. A kettle left to boil dry. You check the cellar. Nothing. In the kitchen drawer, you find matches, a tin of sardines, and a single photograph. A man in a beret holding a small child. The photo's been folded and unfolded many times. There's a smudge across the man's face, like someone tried to erase him with their thumb. Franz eats a few bites of bread and immediately curls back up. You look out the window. The trees bend in the wind, but nothing else moves. Then, far in the distance, an engine starts. Low, heavy. Becca pulls you aside. We should split. You frown. Why? If they catch us as a group, we're prisoners. If it's just me, maybe I make it through. Or you get shot alone in a ditch. He shrugs. Better odds than this. You consider it. There's logic in his madness. Franz won't make it far. That's clear. His color is worse. His breath shallow. He's not dying. Not yet. But he's out of options. You draw a line on the map. We'll meet here. The church at Courmalane. If we're separated. Becca nods. Then he's gone. Just like that. You don't like it. But part of you understands. That night, you sleep beside the stove. Franz mumbles in his sleep. Something about a river and his mother's cat. You keep watch, barely blinking. Every gust of wind sounds like boots. Every creak like a rifle bolt sliding into place. In the morning, the village wakes up before you do. You hear the bells first. Not church bells, bike bells. You peek through the shutters and see them. 4 cyclists in khaki, riding casually up the road. American scouts, helmets off, rifles slung. They ride like men who know the territory has been cleared. You press yourself back into the shadows. They pass without stopping. But the message is clear. This village is no longer behind the front. It is the front. You wake Franz and help him up. He's barely conscious now. You sling his arm over your shoulder and begin walking again. You leave the farmhouse without looking back. You head east, past broken fences, smashed helmets, canteens half buried in the mud. At a crossroads, you find a sign nailed to a tree. It reads, Interdit aux Allemands. Germans forbidden. Beneath it, another sign, hastily written in chalk. Welcome to Free France. The handwriting is jagged, probably done in a hurry, maybe by the same hand that left the note in the farmhouse. You lower your head and move on. The roads grow quieter. No more convoys, no more gunfire, just crows and the wind. At some point, you realize Franz isn't breathing. You stop, lower him to the side of the road. His eyes are half open, peaceful. No final gasp, no whispered last words, just stillness. You sit beside him for a long time. Long enough for the sun to shift. Long enough for the war to keep moving. You leave him with the bread pouch still on his belt. The medal he never wanted still pinned beneath his collar. You don't bury him. You just cover his face with a rag and keep walking. You walk alone now. No orders. No unit. No destination you believe in. Just the map Becker marked, and the name Cormelane circling in smudged pencil like it means something. The world feels wider without Franz's weight against your side. Each step is lighter, but not freer. There's guilt in your boots now, heavy, settled deep in the soles. You pass a row of hedges that look identical to the ones from 2 days ago, and for a moment you're not sure whether you're moving forward or looping in circles. Normandy plays tricks like that. Every path looks like the one you just escaped. Every lane smells of cordite and damp soil. Birdsong returns. Of course it does. The birds here don't care what uniform you wear. They've sung through shellfire before. They'll outlast you too. You drink from a stream trickling beneath a mossy bridge. The water is cold enough to numb your jaw, and you splash some on your face. The reflection staring back at you is smeared with grime, eyes red, hair flattened to one side. You look like a boy playing war in the woods, a child who forgot how to get home. A sound interrupts your thoughts. A rustling ahead. You duck low, crawling to the edge of the embankment. 2 figures, German. They move cautiously, rifles raised. You recognize the posture, half-trained, paranoid, desperate. You whistle once, the old signal. 2 short, 1 long. They freeze. Then 1 whistles back, correctly. You stand slowly, hands visible. They approach. One's maybe 20. The other looks 16, tops. His helmet's too big. His rifle isn't loaded. You notice that instantly. They stop a few feet away. You alone? The older one asks. You nod. He gestures back the way you came. We lost our unit near Bayeux. We've been dodging patrol since. You ask if they've heard anything. Orders. Units regrouping. Anything. He shakes his head. There's nothing left. We're ghosts. The boy beside him finally speaks. Are we surrendering? The question hangs. The older one doesn't answer. Neither do you. Instead you say, I'm headed to Cormelane. He nods, like that's as good a place as any. So now there are 3 of you. Not a unit, just proximity. You move quietly, speaking little. You eat what you have, mostly stolen fruit and half a chocolate bar someone dropped in a ditch. The younger one finds an American canteen and won't stop shaking it to see if anything's inside. When you reach the next village, it's in ruins. Not bombed, abandoned. Windows open, laundry still on the line. A pram overturned in the street. One of the houses has a note on the door. Gone to Paris. Good luck. You sleep in a barn that night. The straw is soft, the air warm. You listen to the wind through the slats and wonder how many other Germans are doing the same right now. Hiding, waiting, pretending the war is still going. At dawn, You wake to find the younger boy gone. The older one curses, stomps through the barn. Maybe he gave himself up, you offer. Maybe he took my ammo, he replies. He didn't. You find the round still there, but his pack is gone, along with the chocolate bar. You don't speak of it again. By midday, you finally reach Cormelane. It's not much, just a cluster of homes around a hilltop church. The tower rises above the rooftops like a tired sentinel. There's smoke in the distance, but not near. You can't tell if that's a good thing. You find the church doors open. The pews are empty, but candles still burn on the altar. Someone's been here recently. The air smells like wax and mildew. You sit in the back pew. The other soldier leans against the wall, watching the door. Hours pass. Then Becker walks in. You stand before you even realize. He looks thinner, tired, but alive. His bandage is new. He carries a civilian satchel instead of a kit bag. He nods once. No smile. The other soldier doesn't move, just watches silently. Becker sits beside you and exhales slowly. I saw them taking St. Lo. Half-tracks, infantry, jeeps. They moved like they owned the place. They do now, you reply. He hands you a piece of paper, a hand-drawn map marked with arrows. There's a fallback being organized near Weire, a mixed unit. Panzer Lehr, stragglers from the 352nd, some SS boys. They're trying to regroup. Who's in charge? Becker laughs. No one. Everyone. You stare at the altar, eyes unfocused. We could go there, he says, or we could disappear. You know what he means. Shed the uniform, burn the papers, walk east until no one cares who you are anymore. Let the war pass like a storm you sleep through. Franz, he asks. You shake your head. He nods again, slower this time. Says nothing more. You leave that night. 3 of you again, if you count the silence. The road to Weire is longer than it looks. You keep to the woods when you can. Cross fields in low crouches. Scan every horizon. You see things as you move. American supply dumps. French flags flying from rooftops. Prisoners marching in columns with hands raised and faces blank. Some wave, some curse. Most just walk. Once, you pass a sign painted in English. Mine's cleared to this point only. Proceed at own risk. You step around it. The soldier with you finds a burned-out American Jeep, tips it over just to see what's underneath. A shovel, a bottle of Coca-Cola. He pockets the bottle. Becker finds an abandoned farmhouse and scrawls a message on the wall with charcoal. Wir waren hier. Niemand kam zurück. We were here. No one came back. No one argues with it. You sleep that night in an old chapel with a broken bell. In the morning, you rise and keep walking. Because what else is there to do? You march under burning clouds. The sky is strange today. Low and orange, smeared with the soot of a dozen invisible fires. Somewhere to the northeast, smoke billows up in slow spirals, tracing the outline of a destroyed fuel depot or an unlucky convoy. You don't look too long. The shapes in the sky are starting to look like things they're not. Trees, helmets, the silhouette of Franz sitting up. You blink hard and keep walking. The road to Isigny is broken, not by bombs, though those left their mark, but by the sheer pressure of men, vehicles, and hooves grinding it to dust. You pass scattered signs of collapse, an overturned Kubelwagen still smouldering, crates of rations burst open, a motorbike missing both wheels leaning against a fence like a drunk who gave up halfway. Becker keeps a steady pace a few steps ahead. His new bandage is tighter now, his limp more pronounced. You don't ask how he got the rap. He doesn't volunteer the story. The third soldier, he told you yesterday his name was Kruger, flicks a cigarette into the ditch. He talks too much. Nervous energy pouring out of him in fragments. I was supposed to be in Paris, he says for the third time. They changed the orders last minute, said we were needed near Caen. But the train never arrived. Whole thing derailed near Rouen. You nod without responding. Then they stuck me on checkpoint duty. Can you imagine? 4 months checking papers, searching potato carts. Then suddenly I'm here, dodging airplanes and eating cold beans out of a helmet. Could be worse, Becca mutters. Yeah. How? Becca stops and points. Across the next ridge, maybe a kilometre off, an entire convoy is stalled. German trucks, ambulances, even a horse-drawn cart. You can't tell why they've stopped, but no one is moving. From here they look like a diorama, a scene frozen in time. Then you see the problem. The lead vehicle has been hit, hard. The windshield is a spiderweb. The tires are melted stumps. Black streaks line the road where the engine caught. Around it, discarded helmets and gear tossed like leaves. They were headed the same way we are, Becca says quietly. You drop to a crouch and raise your binoculars, stolen from a fallen officer days ago. The glass is cracked on one side. You adjust until the image clears. There are maybe 30 men there, some huddled behind the vehicles, others sitting on the side of the road, heads in their hands. No one's digging in, no one's guarding the flank. They look beaten. Do we join them? Kruger asks. You think for a moment. Number, we go around. Why? They might have food. They're stuck. And stuck means seen. Seen means shelled. Or worse, strafed by one of those American fighters that buzz the roads in pairs, sleek and silver with angry teeth painted on their noses. You've seen what they do to stationary targets. Trucks turn into coffins, horses into smoke. Becca agrees. You cut through the fields instead. The detour takes you into a stretch of marshland dotted with irrigation ditches and buzzing with insects. The reeds rise as high as your chest in places, swaying with each gust of wind like a choir whispering secrets. Kruger complains about the mud. Becca tells him to shut up. You focus on keeping your boots from disappearing into the muck. Then, a sound. Not an explosion. Music. You freeze. Somewhere over the next rise, a radio plays. American, jazz. A lazy trumpet, sauntering over a swing rhythm. You don't recognize the song, but it has that casual, effortless feel. All swagger and smoke and late nights. It doesn't belong here, which is exactly why it hits so hard. Becca grins, just barely. They brought their soundtrack with them. You motion for the others to stay low and edge up the slope. On the far side, a farmhouse. Not ruined, occupied. American jeeps out front. Helmets stacked near the well. Laundry lines strung between two trees, dotted with undershirts and khaki socks. A soldier leans in a doorway, shirtless, smoking. Another washes his face in a tin basin. The radio sits on the porch, propped on a crate, playing to no one and everyone. Kruger tugs your sleeve. Let's go around. You nod, but part of you lingers. Not for the danger, for the normalcy. They've turned the front into a picnic. You cut wide, avoiding the house entirely. Through another field, past a broken windmill, over a fence that creaks loud enough to make your pulse skip. But no one follows. No one notices. You vanish again into hedgerow and ditch. By sundown, your legs barely respond to commands. Your thighs burn with every incline. Your feet feel as though they belong to someone else, someone you've been dragging behind you all day. Kruger's complaining has faded to muttering. Even Becker has stopped checking the map every few minutes. The day has wrung you all out. Finally, just as twilight turns the trees to silhouettes, you see a light. Not fire, electric. A barn tucked between two hills. Its windows are faintly glowing, not flickering. A generator maybe, or stolen power. You approach cautiously, rifles low. Inside 6 men, German, or close enough. A mixture of units. Here, Waffen-SS. One man still wearing a Luftwaffe coat. They're eating from cans, speaking in low tones. When you step into the light, half of them reach for their weapons, then pause. One of them, a man with the sergeant's stripes and an iron cross, nods at you. "Join us," he says simply. So you do. They share stew from a dented pot. It's greasy and barely warm, but you don't ask what's in it. You eat. You drink water that tastes faintly of oil. You sit on a crate and listen. The men speak of fallback routes, of lines forming east of Veer, of rumours that Rommel himself is back in Normandy, furious and barefoot and screaming at generals. One man claims he saw him near Caen, stepping out of a staff car without his boots. Another swears Rommel is dead, and they're just pretending he's around to keep morale up. Historians still question where exactly Rommel was on June 6th. He'd left for Germany days earlier, his wife's birthday. But the legend of his return spread quickly, half fact, half folklore. Some say he rushed back in disbelief. Others claim he'd already known it was lost. You wonder which version is worse. Kruger asks what the plan is. The sergeant shrugs. There's no plan, just movement. We'll see who's still alive in the morning. The room grows quiet. Someone lights a cigarette. You lie back against the wall, eyes closed, listening to the low murmur of voices and the occasional scrape of a spoon in a tin bowl. And for the first time in days, you feel something close to stillness. Not peace, but stillness. It won't last. But tonight, it's enough. You wake to footsteps, soft, deliberate. The kind you learn to recognize in wartime. The ones that don't want to be heard. Your hand finds your rifle before your eyes open. You lie still, breath shallow, trying to count how many there are. 1, 2. You open your eyes just a sliver. The barn is still mostly dark, thin light filtering through a crack in the roof. The others are asleep or pretending to be. Becker shifts beside you. You know he hears it too. Another step, then the creak of the barn door. Kruger is already halfway upright, a blanket still tangled around his legs. A figure enters, unarmed, civilian. A boy, no older than 15, with a bucket in one hand and a lantern in the other. He freezes when he sees the rifles, the boots, the helmets. You all freeze too. He says nothing. Then the man from last night, the sergeant with the iron cross, steps forward. He lowers his weapon. "Water?" he asks, nodding at the bucket. The boy gives a tight nod, sets it down, and backs out slowly, never taking his eyes off you. No one speaks for a while. Eventually, the sergeant turns to you. "Locals know we're here. That's bad." You nod. No other conclusion to draw. "We move in an hour," he says. Becker groans and rolls to his feet. "Where?" The sergeant points south. "Bocage country. We cross tonight. Then we join what's left of Panzerlehr near Saint-Martin-de-Besace. If they're still there." "If," Becker echoes. You eat quickly, hardtack and a few spoonfuls of beans. The water is clean, cold, drawn from a well. You use it to wash your face and pour a little down your neck. The shock brings you halfway back to life. Outside, dawn creeps in slowly. Fog clings to the trees. Everything feels soaked in silence, as if the land itself is holding its breath. You leave the barn by twos and threes. The sergeant leads. The forest swallows you again. You move quickly through the hedgerows, following old goat paths and wagon ruts that cut like veins across the hillsides. The group is quiet. 10 men, maybe 12 now, though no one counts aloud. What's the point? You'll lose someone before noon anyway. The air smells of wet grass and diesel. Somewhere in the distance, an engine sputters and dies. A tractor maybe, or something pretending to be one. Kruger sticks close to you, talking under his breath. "My uncle fought in the First War," he says. "Said the mud in France never leaves your boots." He looks down. Still true. Becker gives him a sidelong glance. "Your uncle didn't have Mustangs overhead." Kruger laughs, short and bitter. He didn't have ration coffee either, swings and roundabouts. You crest a low hill and see it. The road. A single-lane strip of cracked asphalt running through the hedgerow, quiet now, but lined with the ghosts of movement. Tire tracks, crushed cigarette packs, shell casings glittering in the dust. The sergeant holds up a fist. Everyone stops. Across the road, a farmhouse. In the field beside it, an American half-track. Parked, engine off. No visible movement. Your stomach knots. Becker whispers, "Scouts, out ahead." The sergeant signals 2 men to flank, 1 to watch the rear. You crouch low, inching toward the edge of the tree line. Through the tall grass, you spot 2 Americans, helmets off, leaning against the wall of the farmhouse. One holds a map. The other drinks from a canteen. They're relaxed. Too relaxed. You know this routine, this posture. These are advanced elements, maybe dropped off to hold a junction until the rest of the column arrives, which means time is short, which means you need to move. But someone behind you twitches. A boot snaps a branch. One of the Americans looks up. Time freezes. Then, motion, yelling. Rifles raised. The sergeant fires first. A clean shot. One of the Americans drops. You dive into the ditch, shoulder slamming into wet earth. Bullets buzz overhead, smacking bark and leaves. Someone screams behind you. You fire twice, controlled bursts, at nothing in particular. The fog thickens with the stink of gunpowder and trampled grass. "Move," Becker shouts. "Across the road." You scramble, boots skidding on mud, and sprint across the open strip of asphalt. The heat of a bullet grazes your left arm. Not a wound, just a reminder. You dive behind a rusted cart and reload. The firefight doesn't last long. 2 minutes, maybe 3. The Americans retreat into the farmhouse. You hear them yelling coordinates into a radio. Not good. Becker shouts again. They're calling for support. The sergeant signals a retreat. Not a full route, just a fallback into the hedgerow maze, where tanks can't follow and planes can't see. You grab Kruger by the collar and drag him from the ditch. He's shaking, eyes wide. You slap him once. "Move." He moves. You run. Behind you, you hear the bark of engines. Trucks, maybe. Or armor. In the hedgerow, you regroup. Down 1 man, maybe 2. You don't know. You're breathing too hard to think straight. The sergeant doesn't yell, doesn't curse. He just adjusts his helmet and says, "We don't go south anymore." Then where? East. Of course. Always east. Like water finding the lowest point. You walk for hours, nerves raw, every sound a threat. At one point, Becker stops you and points up. Overhead, a cluster of American planes flying low. You duck into the trees, but they're not here for you. They're heading further in, toward the lines, toward the front you used to be part of. You keep walking. The sun dips lower. The shadows grow longer. By evening, you reach a crumbling mill house beside a river. The water is shallow, but fast. Cold. You drink, strip your boots off, soak your feet. Bliss. Then Becca hands you something. A piece of torn fabric, civilian clothes. Found these in the barn. You stare. He doesn't say the word. You don't either. But you both know what it means. Disguise, disappearance, dissolution. I'm not wearing this, Kruger says, defiant. Becca shrugs. Suit yourself. You hold the fabric in your lap for a long time, then fold it again. You don't put it on. Not yet. But you don't throw it away either. The morning begins with fog thick enough to erase the world. You wake cold, curled near the base of a tree with one boot off and your rifle still resting across your chest. The others stir slowly. No one speaks. No one wants to break the strange stillness that hangs in the air like a wet blanket. The fog creeps through the undergrowth, turns hedgerows into walls of white, and muffles every sound down to a dull, whispery hush. It's the kind of weather that makes you wonder if you're the last ones left alive. Becca rises first. He ties the civilian shirt he found yesterday around his waist, but doesn't put it on. Neither do you. Not yet. Not while you're still holding rifles. There's a line, and once you cross it, once you take off the uniform, there's no way back. Kruger coughs behind you. It's not loud, but it cuts through the silence like a bullet. You shush him with a look. He glares back. The sergeant from the day before is gone. Vanished sometime during the night. His pack still lies near the riverbank, half zipped. You find no note, no footprints, no sign of struggle. Just absence. Another subtraction. Deserter? Kruger asks. Maybe, Becca says. You think about it. More likely, he went to find someone, or deliver something, or just decided he was done leading ghosts through forests. Either way, it's not your concern anymore. You pack up, reload, and keep moving. The fog follows. By noon, you've stopped trying to navigate in straight lines. The map is worthless now. Roads appear where none should be, and ones that should cut through simply vanish into marsh. You keep to the hedgerows anyway, always near cover, always listening. Becca mutters something about the bocage being a curse, a place designed to trap men. You've started to believe him. Normandy doesn't kill with open fields, it kills with corners. Then you hear it. Boots, not yours. You drop instantly. Over the next ridge, movement. Shadows at first. Then figures. Not American. German. You raise your rifle halfway, unsure. Becca tenses beside you. Kruger whispers. Finally. They come into full view. Dozens of them. Dirty, limping, scratched and wide-eyed. Some carry rifles. Others carry nothing at all. One man clutches a loaf of bread to his chest like it's sacred. They don't notice you at first. Then one of them does. He calls out, harsh, quick, a wordless alarm. The front of the group freezes. Some raise hands. Others point weapons. You step out slowly, arms raised halfway. We're Wehrmacht, you say. We're lost. The tension holds like a drawn wire. Then one of them, an older soldier with an officer's cap tucked into his belt, waves. So are we. They let you join the column. You learn their story in fragments. retreating from Comont, pushed out by armor, airstrikes, partisans, friendly fire, a shattered command chain. One says his unit was ordered to counterattack, but the road was already in flames before they reached the edge of town. Another says Rommel was seen on the ridge that morning, standing in the open like a man waiting for God. Rommel? Becker asks. Barefoot again? The man shrugs. He looked angry. That part at least you believe. Some scholars still argue whether Rommel's presence in Normandy during the post-D-Day chaos helped or hindered the German response. His absence during the landings is well documented. His return, fast, furious, and too late, is part myth, part military tragedy. Depending who you ask, he was either trying to save the defense or witnessing its final collapse. Now he's a ghost too. You march with the group for hours, across low ridges and through pockets of farmland where tractors sit abandoned, and cows wander without fences. You see more signs of the war shifting. American field rations scattered in a ditch, fresh shell craters with no debris, and, once, a single boot print that doesn't match any of yours. Near sunset, the column pauses near a ruined chapel. A decision is made. Some want to keep going. Others want to hide here, wait for the lines to form again. You step aside with Becker and Kruger. Becker lowers his voice. We shouldn't stay. I know, you say. Too many people. No discipline. No direction. It's a target waiting to be painted. He's right. You break away again. Just the three of you now. The last three. You head southeast. The map shows a river fork ahead, near Estrie. That's where retreating units were supposed to regroup days ago. Maybe there's something left. Maybe not. Either way, it's direction. Purpose. Even if it's imaginary. You move faster now, partly because the terrain flattens, and partly because you no longer care if someone sees you. The front isn't a line anymore. It's a cloud. Shifting, bleeding, unpredictable. Around dusk, you hear the bells. Not church bells, cowbells. You crest a rise and see them. A dozen cattle meandering down a dirt road, unattended. One of them has a helmet hanging from its horn. You don't know what it means. You make camp in a dried-out ditch. The stars are sharp tonight, the air dry and strangely still. It feels like a pause between movements, a breath before the next chapter. Becker finally speaks. We're not going to make it to Veer. You say nothing. Kruger sits with his back to a tree, fiddling with a harmonica he doesn't know how to play. After a few seconds of breathy wheezing, he stops. I can't feel my fingers. Becker leans back. That's not frostbite. That's fear. You lie down, staring up through the branches. You think of Franz again. The way he always carried his spoon tied to his belt loop. The way he never finished a full ration without offering the last bite to someone else. You remember the sound of his laugh. Rare, wheezy, real. You wonder who's remembering you. Eventually, the fog returns. It always does. You reach the crossroads near Bayeux, just before sunrise. The road is split by a shattered fuel truck, its frame curled in on itself, like a dead insect. Bits of glass crunch underfoot as you cross. The signpost is scorched, but still legible. Bayeux one way, Caumont the other, and straight ahead. Tilly-sur-Seulles. You're not aiming for any of them. You're aiming for a patch of land between places. Somewhere the Allies might not care about and the Wehrmacht might have forgotten. Somewhere quiet, forgettable, safe. Not that safety exists anymore. The fields here are empty. No livestock, no tractors, not even birds. Just grass rippling in the wind and the scent of diesel baked into the earth. You pass a line of trees blackened from a recent fire. One still smoulders faintly. Kruger walks ahead of you now, boots dragging a little more with every hour, harmonica tied to his pack like a dead weight. He doesn't play it anymore. You haven't seen another soldier in 2 days. Not German, not American. Just smoke trails on the horizon and the distant sound of engines, always too far away to chase or run from. Becker has grown quiet again. He walks with his rifle slung over his shoulder, the civilian satchel bouncing against his hip. You've both tucked your dog tags deep in your shirts. You don't think it'll help, but it feels like something. Some barrier between you and what's coming. You crest a small hill and see it. A village, or what's left of one. A few stone houses clustered around a square. A church with half its steeple missing. Laundry flapping on a line behind a crumbling bakery. But no people. Not yet. You scan the rooftops. Nothing. No glint of scopes. No silhouettes with rifles. You motion to the others and begin your descent. Halfway down the slope, Becker mutters, "You smell that?" You do. Something familiar. Something sour and sweet. Soap. The village has been cleaned recently. When you enter, it's like stepping into a set someone forgot to tear down. A radio sits on a windowsill, still warm. A pot of water boils over a fire with no one tending it. There's food here, beds, chairs, and yet it's empty. You pass a schoolhouse with a chalkboard still bearing today's date. Today, you blink at it. Someone was here this morning. You take cover inside the chapel, what's left of it, huddled behind a broken pew. Becker scans the windows while Kruger digs through a cabinet looking for something edible. He finds 2 tins of fish and a crust of bread. You split it 3 ways. "Too quiet," Becker mutters. "They cleared out for a reason." "What reason?" Kruger asks, mouth full. "Same reason we keep moving." He's right. You don't stay long. The civilian disguise isn't a disguise anymore. It's your only uniform now. You ditch the grey tunic behind the altar, fold it once, and leave it on a chair like a coat at a dinner party. It feels like betrayal, but you don't take it back. Becker watches you, then removes his as well. Kruger hesitates, then shrugs, and does the same. 3 ghosts now. You leave the village quietly, taking a side road between 2 rows of trees. The dust is soft underfoot. Your boots leave clear tracks. You start walking in the grass instead. Around midday, the wind shifts, and then you hear it. The deep, throaty purr of tanks. More than one. Becker stops mid-stride. You all drop to your knees, scanning the fields. Then you see them. Not Panzers, not Tigers, Shermans. 4, maybe 5, rumbling down a dirt track a kilometre off. American infantry follow behind them, rifles slung casually, helmets tilted back, some of them smoking. They look relaxed, confident, like the war has already ended, and no one bothered to tell you. You don't move. The tanks don't stop. The column passes like a river, wide, noisy, and unaware of the stone in its path. When they're gone, you exhale for the first time in minutes. "They're pushing past us," Kruger whispers. "They didn't even see us." "No," Becker says. "They just didn't care." That's worse somehow. You move again. Now the land begins to change. Fewer hedgerows, more open terrain. Fields tilled but empty. You pass a dead horse in a cart, its harness still taut. A child's shoe lies in the road beside it. You don't stop. Near a grove of trees you find a downed glider, American. Split clean down the middle. The wings are gone. The frame is scorched. Inside helmets, packs, a crate of supplies labelled medical. You take a bandage and a tin of crackers. Becker finds iodine. Kruger pockets a folding knife. The glider smells like panic, like sweat and canvas and something else you don't want to identify. You leave quickly. By dusk, you find a barn with the roof intact and a well nearby. You don't light a fire. You don't speak. You just sit in the shadows, chewing dried bread and waiting for something. An order, a sound, a reason. Becker finally breaks the silence. If we get captured, what do we say? Kruger shrugs. Say we were conscripted. Say we deserted. Say we didn't shoot anyone. You all know none of it matters. You all know there's no clean version of this story. Some historians argue that by late June 1944, many Wehrmacht soldiers had mentally checked out. Morale collapsed. Orders blurred. Some simply stopped fighting. Others kept marching out of habit. No one agrees on how many surrendered willingly, or how many just walked into Allied hands because they had nowhere else to go. You understand now. You lie on the hay with your rifle beside you, not to fight, but to remember that you were once a soldier, that once you had a name on a roster and a bunk, with a number and a commander who knew your face. Now you're no one. And it's almost a relief. You sleep lightly. In the morning, there are voices outside. English, laughter, boots in gravel. You lie still and listen. Then Becker whispers, "They're not looking for us." You crawl to the edge of the barn and peer through the slats. 4 Americans, walking the road, laughing. One tosses a rock into a ditch. Another points at something on a map. They don't check the barn. They don't even glance at it. They pass like wind. And just like that, you realize something. They've already won. And you've already left the war behind. The next day, you don't move. Not far anyway. You spend the morning behind the barn, watching the empty road through slats in the wood, while Becker boils water from the well in a dented tin. You keep the rifle beside you, even though you haven't held it properly in days. It doesn't feel like a weapon anymore, more like a memory you're still trying to forget. Kruger sits in the corner, sharpening the folding knife he found in the glider. He's not very good at it. The blade keeps slipping. Eventually, he stops, pockets it, and stares at the floor. "I think we're behind the lines now," he says, voice low. "Probably," Becker answers without looking up. "Then why are we still hiding?" The question hangs in the air. It's not just about tactics. It's about purpose, identity. Whether the uniform meant anything after all, now that it's folded under a pile of hay and soaked with dust and sweat and indecision. Becker doesn't answer. He just pours hot water over what's left of the crackers and offers you a piece. You take it without a word. Later, you walk the perimeter of the barn, a slow loop, careful to avoid the road. The grass is tall in places, disturbed only by rabbit trails and the occasional print from hooves. You see nothing. No soldiers, no partisans, no civilians. Just fences, trees, sky. It's the quietest war zone you've ever known. By mid-afternoon, Kruger spots smoke in the distance. Thin, white, not rising fast enough to be artillery. A cooking fire maybe, or just someone burning trash. You all stare at it for a long time, as if waiting for it to tell you something. "Could be Germans," Kruger says. "Could be Americans," you reply. Becker just nods. "Could be anyone." You don't go investigate. You don't want to know. By evening, the clouds roll in. Heavy, low, and grey. The 3 of you sit on the steps of the barn, shoulders hunched against the breeze, sharing the last of the canned fish. The air smells like coming rain and distant earth. No one says what you're thinking. No one has to. That this is probably it. The end. Not dramatic, not heroic. Just a slow fade out in a place no one will ever write about. No battle, no surrender, no last stand. Just waiting. Maybe the most honest end a soldier could ask for. The night is colder than the last. You sleep lightly again. Sometime past midnight, you wake to a sound outside. Not boots, not engines, a dog, barking. Distant but persistent. You rise, rifle in hand, and step outside. The stars are hidden now, and the world is cast in shades of blue and grey. The dog barks again, closer this time, then stops. You wait. Nothing. You go back inside. Becker is awake now, sitting against the wall. He glances at you but doesn't ask. Kruger mutters something in his sleep and rolls over. You lie down. And this time, you don't dream. Let's slow down now. You're still here. Curled up in your bed, or your sofa, or maybe just lying on the floor in the dark with your phone face down beside you. That long march through Normandy, you made it. The barn is quiet again. The sky outside is soft with morning mist, and the road you crossed that once ran thick with tanks and boots and orders shouted through static is quiet now. Just a ribbon of gravel and memory winding past forgotten fields. Maybe you're still holding that imaginary rifle. Maybe you're ready to let it go. Because sometimes the fight isn't with bullets and borders, but with what's left when the silence returns. You did what you could with the orders you were given, the boots you wore, the names you remembered, and the ones you forgot. And even if the maps changed and the reasons blurred, you kept walking. That's worth something. So now, take a long breath. Let the war fade back into the trees and hedgerows. Let the questions soften, the uniforms dissolve. Let the fog settle again over the fields. You're not a soldier anymore. You're just you. And it's time to rest. Thanks for listening, History Buff. I'll see you again soon for another long, slow walk through the past. But for now, close your eyes, drift off. You're home.